Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I want to take a look at a smart switch made by Brilliant. Brilliant is a company that makes and sells premium smart home switches. These switches are unlike most out on the market. They feature a touchscreen display with 1 to 4 dimmable touch buttons. This smart switch also features a built-in camera, microphone, speaker, and motion sensor. The Brilliant smart home switch is easy to integrate with most popular smart home brands such as Philips Hue, Lifx, SmartThings, and others. Installation is fairly easy, often no harder than installing any other smart switch, as long as the electrical wiring in your house wasn't done by complete buffoons. Besides being a central dashboard to control your smart home devices, this switch also has Alexa built in, can act as an intercom system if you have more than one, and display your photos on its screen. You can even view the camera built into the switch from the Brilliant app as well. Overall, this is a pretty neat smart switch and unlike anything else I have in my house. However, the price tag on this thing starts off at $350 per switch. That's pretty steep for just a fancy smart switch. So that brings me to my question. Is the Brilliant smart switch worth buying in 2023? For a while, Brilliant was the only smart switch like it on the market, but in 2023, there are several other options out there. We have the NS panel by Sonoff, and we have several other devices by Tuya that fill a similar gap. There are a few reasons why I think someone would choose this expensive smart switch over the others mentioned. It just works. I know that's a favorite line of Philips Hue uses to justify why they buy their overpriced bulbs and stuff, but let's face it, it works. I've had this set up in my house for several months now. Really haven't had any issues with it at all. Sometimes it takes a little bit to pick up a Ring camera, but for the most part, I hit a button, it does what I want. Integrations. It integrated pretty easily with most of my smart home brands. SmartThings, just sign in. Lifx, same thing, just sign in. That's about it. Oh, Ring, just signed in. Those are about the 3 things out of my whole entire smart home setup that I got integrated easily. There was a few finicky things that I had to trick into SmartThings to bring up, such as my Tuya devices and stuff like that. But other than that, all the major brands work with this thing. A big plus is it does work with HomeKit. So all you Apple users out there, this is a great switch for you to buy if you want to spend the money. Along with it being extremely reliable, they packed a lot into this switch. I've mentioned it before, they've got cameras, they've got microphones, they've got speakers, they've got motion sensors. I mean, there's a lot packed into here, aside from the display and the physical button switches themselves. Do they all work well? We'll get to that in a second, but if you're looking for an all-in-one solution, it's all in here. Those are a few reasons why someone may want to buy the Brilliant Smart Switch over some of these other competitors. Now let's look at the reasons why someone may not. The first and most glaring reason is the high price tag. These switches start off at $350 and go up from there depending on whether you want 2 gang, 3 gang, 4 gang. That's a steep price tag considering that a lot of the other competitors are in the $80 to $100 range and pack the same features into their switches as well. Speaking of features, let's talk integrations. Brilliant boasts that it can integrate with 29 other brands. These include August, Ecobee, Google, and many others. This sounds like a lot. When you look at what they're missing, such as Aqara, Tuya, Govee, and one of my favorites, Home Assistant, you start feeling left out. I feel like Brilliant only set up integrations for the big companies at the time. Philips Hue, Lifx, SmartThings. But from what I've researched, the last integration they had was HomeKit, and that was back in 2019. Also, that integration is one way. The way the HomeKit integration works is you can integrate the switches in Brilliant to HomeKit, not the devices from HomeKit into Brilliant, which seems kind of backwards to me. The purpose of the smart home control display is to be able to see all my devices there and to be able to control them from there, like it does with SmartThings. It does a great job with SmartThings of doing this. But to have it reverse with HomeKit, it doesn't make any sense for me. I did manage to get it integrated, the switches themselves integrated into Home Assistant through HomeKit, but I don't really have a need to control the physical buttons. Usually if I'm controlling those physical buttons, I go to it and turn it on, turn it off. So the integrations are kind of a missed opportunity with me. They are, the ones that they do have, it integrates really well with, but it's the lack of the other ones, or the lack of adding other ones to it. I haven't seen anything on the horizon of them specifically integrating with other brands other than Matter support, which hopefully will open it to everything. This one's kind of a minor gripe. The divot switches are a little too sensitive for me. I notice whenever I'm going through the control panel and stuff like that, if my finger or hand gets too close, it will turn off the fan or turn off whatever light switches that one right there. It doesn't actually activate when you touch it. You just need to be close to it. And it's an irritation. It's like, I didn't want that to happen. Why is it happening? I felt like they could have turned the sensitivity down on those, but it is what it is. And like I said, it's just a minor gripe. However, that does kind of tie into my next point, which is the overall hardware isn't the best in this Switch. The display is great. The display is probably the best thing about this. It's bright, shiny, really accurate on colors. However, everything else is kind of meh. They have these little minor issues, and it all kind of just builds up into one big issue. The camera is terrible. It is terrible in low light conditions, or in any light conditions. I don't understand why it doesn't give a good picture. It's kind of bleh. It looks almost as bad as something from a early 2000s flip phone video. Not as pixelated, but just as bad quality. The speakers are nothing to write home about. They're tinny, they crackle, they don't have any depth, but I really wasn't expecting anything out of them from a Switch. You won't be playing any music on them, but it is what it is. And the cool Alexa feature that's built into it. Alexa is built into these things. However, I feel like her functionality is kind of stifled in some places. As she is slower to respond than my Echoes. She doesn't get all the commands, or she's like, I just can't do that. When it's something that my normal Echo can do. To be honest, I turned this feature off within a couple of days of having these installed because I have Echoes in all my offices, or all my rooms. Excuse me. So it's kind of pointless, it's redundant, but I did notice it just wasn't all that great. Maybe I need to give it a little more time and do a thorough test of this, but it's just one of those gimmicks that are built in, like the Wise Watch, which is really cool for $30, had Alexa built into it. It's similar function to that if anybody's ever used that. It doesn't do everything that a regular Echo Dot can do. So overall, like the Switch is kind of an all-in-one mess. If you understand what I'm talking about, like all-in-one desktops are never the greatest. They're subpar components compared to a full-on desktop because they had to cram everything in there. So there's sacrifices there, and there's definitely sacrifices with the Switch. But that is what it is. I guess like it goes kind of back to the price tag thing of like $350. If everything's subpar, why am I paying premium prices for it? But there you have it. One of the big cool features that everyone that ever does a review on this thing shows is you can answer your doorbell from it. Yes, you can. Sucks. I don't, for example, like I have Ring doorbell, I have Ring cameras, also have Wise cameras, which don't integrate with it, by the way. I thought was terrible. Like maybe that should be added. They're pretty popular. But with Ring, what I noticed is if you're pulling up a camera feed, sometimes it just is a gray screen and it takes forever. I'll show you a video of it. If you finally do get a feed, it's laggy, it's slow compared to like the feed on your phone or the feed on an Amazon Fire TV or an Echo Show. It's even laggier than that. The answering the doorbell is useless. I don't know if it's my specific switch or what, but when I tested this out, I could not talk. The person could not hear me, and vice versa. It was just, I could see, I could tell there was somebody there and they were talking, but neither one of us could hear each other. The only reason why we could hear each other is because, well, the switch is really close to my door. So I was actually really disappointed about that. I thought, wow, everybody boasts about this feature, and there it was. It was a big letdown. So this last gripe might just be me, but I feel like Brilliant as a company is slow to upgrade the devices, implement new things, new integrations. When you compare it to other companies out there, this thing has been around since 2018, and they haven't added much. According to my research, like the last integration they had was HomeKit in 2019. Since then, I haven't really found anything when they posted new integrations. I know they're planning on doing Matter, like I've mentioned before, which will be cool, but will that be I have to go buy a new Switch, or will it be that my current Switch is good enough? We'll see. But when you compare it to like Home Assistant is always adding new stuff. Home Assistant's always upgrading, adding new features, integrations, stuff like that. I mean, all the time. Anybody that owns a Home Assistant hub knows that you're always updating because there's always something new. They always got plans, and it's free and it's open source. So someone like Brilliant charging $350 minimum for their switches, you would think would be integrating new things all the time. As other brands become popular, they should be like, hey, maybe we should grab this. Like Tuya's been around for a while, and it still surprises me that it's not an integration. But again, that might just be me. Some people might not care, but it is what it is. So my last thing that I want to talk about with this Switch is, and this is really a me thing, it's just like the last point, but load time on it. We live in a world where load times on devices are getting quicker and quicker because we hate waiting. We want our thing to work. We want to be able to use it. This thing takes forever if it has to reboot. In all fairness, I've never had to reboot it except for one time out of the months that I've owned and been using these Switches. But the one time I did, I think it was like a minimum of 2 minutes just to wait for it to come back up, if not longer. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're standing there waiting to do something, or you want to turn off a light or turn on a light, you gotta wait for this thing to reboot. It's kind of a hassle. Some of these may seem like minor gripes, but enough minor gripes build up into one big messy thing. The Switch is flashy and fancy with its display and all that, but it suffers from all-in-one syndrome. Like I've stated before, where it's a bunch of subpar parts crammed into one thing to fit into a space, and it doesn't lend to a good experience. So let's take a look at Brilliant's competition. The first, and probably the one I mentioned the most known, is Sonoff's NS panel. You've seen reviews on it, probably seen it. You may also like here on Amazon if you were looking at a Brilliant Smart Switch. The panel pretty much does everything the Brilliant Switch does. I don't personally own one, but everything that I've seen, it has microphones, it has a camera, it has a nice display. It doesn't have the divot slider things. It actually has 2 tactile buttons, so you know you hit it, which I kind of like that. Instead of just being Wi-Fi, the Sonoff NS panel is also Zigbee and something called eWeLink. I'm not familiar with it because I probably don't have anything that uses it, but if you do, hey, bonus, right? And it's single gain. That's probably the only weird thing, because it does control 2 things. So like you would have to make some kind of plate or something on the other side if you were trying to put it in a 2 gang spot. But it fits really well in single gang spots. And the biggest thing, it's like a third of the cost. It's for the single gang one, the non-pro version, it's like $80, $60 sometimes on Amazon when it's on sale. So that's a huge plus, and it does everything. One of the things that I really like about this, if you like to tinker with stuff, it has an ESP32 chip. I think I'm saying that right, but that means Home Assistant can take advantage of ESP Home, and you can actually flash this thing to be basically a Home Assistant control panel. So that's a huge plus to me. I like to tinker and I like things to work with Home Assistant. So another competitor is Tuya, and Tuya has a lot of different options out there. Everything from a $50 just LCD smart panel where you can put whatever you want on there and control it from there, or like I showed earlier in the video, that big long panel, which is I think $1,200. It's expensive, but it's really cool based on what I've read and seen of it. And Tuya works with everything that I can think of. You can get it into Home Assistant. You can get a lot of the stuff into SmartThings. SmartThings integration doesn't pick up everything, but it picks up most things. So that's pretty cool. Or you can just keep it in Tuya. Tuya is its own ecosystem in itself. Another option is the DIY method. Using individual devices for the specific functions instead of relying on just one single package. You can use something like a tablet for the dashboard. Installing SmartThings on it, if that's the ecosystem that you're in, is great. Their new interface shows temperatures, if lights are on, if doors are open, if batteries are dead. It's really cool. You can install the Home Assistant app and create your own dashboards. I have mine set up for each individual room. You can just scroll through and I can see what's going on in each room. Or you can, really the possibilities are endless with the Home Assistant dashboard, especially now. They put a lot of emphasis on it. If you're an Apple HomeKit user, iPad works great. It's got HomeKit built into it. It can act as a HomeKit hub. It's not leaving anywhere. You mount it on the wall and you've got all your stuff right there. For cameras, you have Wise and Blink. They're like $30 cameras. They're way better quality than this one on the Brilliant Smart Switch. And they've been around for almost as long, so it's always kind of make me wonder why the camera in this one wasn't so great. To replace the intercom functionality of this, which I didn't mention before because I don't really use it, haven't used it, I have echoes in every room. It's a lot cheaper than putting one of these switches in every room. Significantly cheaper. You could put an Echo Show 10 in every one of these rooms and still come out on top. But it's just a better way of doing it. It's an easier way of doing it. And that's my recommendation. These alternatives give you the ability to tailor your smart home to yourself as opposed to being stuck in what Brilliant wants you to use. I'm big on that. Like I've probably mentioned ad nauseum, use Home Assistant. Home Assistant can do whatever I want it to do, or I can make it do it. I just feel trapped in Brilliant. Like I have to use its integrations, or I have to chain integrations, which I absolutely hate doing, to get certain things to work. To finally answer the question, is Brilliant worth buying in 2023? From my experience, it's not worth the investment. It's for the price tag of $350, and it's been on sale for $300 just for the single gang. It's too steep of a price for the minor issues it has, the lack of integration, what I feel is a lack of Brilliant's care on their part to even make this better. And also just the competition out there is way more affordable and better. So for all the reasons listed, yeah, I can't recommend this at full price anyway. If you can get it used or someone wants to give it to you, like in my case, then yeah, go for it. I don't mean to complete dump on this Switch. I use it every day. It's a great Switch, but I only really use a couple of functionalities of it. The display is great, and I use the actual switches. All the other stuff, they should probably just get rid of and then reduce the price on it, in my personal opinion. But in the end, I'm never going to tell anybody to buy one at full price. So take it what you will. If you love Brilliant, let me know that in the comments. If you don't, let me know that as well. If you found anything of value in this, give me a like, a share, a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.